Promises give us another option of how to work with asynchronous code. Promises return an object which promise to do some work. This object has separate callbacks for success and for failures. This lets us work with asynchronous code in a much more synchronous way. A really nice feature is that promises can be combined into dependency chains. To demonstrate these features, let's convert our sensor example to use promises so that we can see how it cleans up our code a bit. Let's scroll down to our message post function. And on line 28, instead of passing a callback as the first parameter, we'll pass nothing, and then we'll add dot then, and this will execute if there are no errors. And then we can place our callback inside the then function. And so now this function, as a callback, is placed inside then. Since we got rid of the error parameter, we'll need to check for errors using another method. We can chain on a catch function at the end. And then we'll pass in a callback to handle our errors. So it will take in an error. And then we can send the response.send status with 500. In this case, we can get rid of our error check on line 29 and 30. Then let's return a console.error with the error message. Let's save this and give it a try. So I posted the new message. Let's go look at our integrated terminal. Upon saving our message, we notice we're getting another deprecation warning. It's suggesting that we plug in our own promise library instead of the deprecated version from Mongoose. So we can use the built-in ES6 promise library. Let's go up to the top of our file, above our DB URL, and add mongoose.promise equals promise. And we're letting Mongoose know that the promise library we want to use is the default ES6 promise library. Let's save that and give it another try. And now we're no longer getting the deprecation warning. Now that we've taken care of that warning, let's move back to promises. So we can see that save message still functions the same way, but there isn't much improvement in the look of our code. We still have those nested callbacks. To solve this, let's look into dependency chains. This is where promises really shine with respect to clean code. I'll start by taking the body of our message save then function callback out. And I'll simply add a console.log in here, letting us know saved. Then before I chain on the catch function, I'll chain on another then. And I'll add the catch to the bottom. And then I'll start to stack these chained functions. Then temporarily, I'll paste the body below the function, since I'll be copying and pasting. So I'll copy the message.findOne call we have and paste it below our console log. And then I'll return that. Since we are returning the promise instead of handling it with a callback in the second parameter, the next then that is chained on will take the result of that first promise in a callback. So in this case, I can get access to censored. And essentially, all the code that I had in the callback, I can move inside this new then callback. And then I can get rid of this temporary code. Then if there are no censored words found, I can move the rest of this code below it. And we'll send the status 200 and emit the message. Let's go ahead and give this a try as is before we carry on. So let's go back to our app and send the new message. We can see it's showing up, and if we refresh, it's still showing up, so our functionality is maintained. as we continue to refactor. Message.remove is the last promise, so we can go ahead and chain that and its response. So I'll take out the callback, and then I'll return this as a promise. And I won't bother confirming if the censored words were removed in our console log, but if there are any errors, the catch at the bottom will catch them, and it will send a send status of 500. And I'll move the first then down so that we can maintain some vertical consistency, and it's a bit easier to read. Now before we give this a try, I would like to show you that this is no longer a refactor since the behavior changed slightly. Because in our second then, if it did find a censored word, it will return a message.remove and will never actually emit the message. So let's save that and demonstrate how it works. So if I type in bad in the message and then hit send, we go down and we can see that it's posted the new message bad. But if I type in bad word, we can see that it doesn't even show up the way it did before it was removed from the database. And if we refresh, we can see it's not even in the database. So that's a slight improvement on functionality as well as in the look of our code. Because here we can clearly see the steps our code takes. It tries to do this save. If it fails, it goes into the catch. Then it tries to find a message with bad word. Then if it finds it, it tries to remove it. And if it doesn't find it, only then will it emit the message. So promises do offer an improvement in creating clean code. So although this code still might be difficult to read, it should be a bit easier at a glance, since the code is now flowing mostly downward and not inwards as they did with nested callbacks. Next, let's look at improving our code even more with async await.